Hello and welcome to Freedom Gulch's Vice Presidential Debate. My name is Will Hammer. I'm the founder and owner of Freedom Gulch, which is a libertarian commentary website. I also ran for U.S. Congress in 2014, receiving 12%, as well as Virginia House of Delegates in 2015, receiving 24%, both historical results of Virginia. I'm joined by Michael Pickens, founder of Libertarian Leadership, which is an organization devoted to empowering libertarian candidates and activists to reach their full potential. He is also the former chairman for the Washington State Libertarian Party. We are also joined by, right now, 3 Libertarian Vice Presidential candidates. Hopefully Judd Weiss will be joining us shortly. We're joined by Will Coley, Alicia Dern, and Larry Sharp at the moment. Michael and I will ask the candidates questions and allow for 1-minute responses, 30 seconds for rebuttals if there's a follow-up question. This event should last roughly 1 hour, give or take. We'll go ahead and allow the candidates to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Will Coley.
Hello, everyone. Thanks to you guys for inviting us on for the debate tonight. I'm a father and a family man, father of 7 with 1 on the way, small business owner and urban farmer, conservation farmer. I am also a credentialed university lecturer. I lecture at universities and political events around the country, and have been working to spread the ideas of liberty across the globe, and hope to use this opportunity as a chance to continue that effort.
All right, Alicia?
Hi, I also thank you for hosting. First of all, I want to say that I am just really proud to be a libertarian, and particularly proud of this particular group of candidates. And we have such an awesome amount of diversity here. No major parties ever had the kind of diversity the libertarians have. We are always on the forefront of what is just the best for the free market of ideas, and the best, diverse point of views and diverse experiences. So, and if we didn't have that, this would be a boring debate. So I want to say that this election is not about me. It is about the economic pain that is really motivating the American people right now. In fact, it's motivating the American people so much that there's a percentage of them who are willing to vote for Donald Trump. Libertarians have the answer, and it is our job to share that as widely and as loudly as possible. Because not everybody's a libertarian, but everybody should be. America has been losing the war, so to speak, of messaging to socialism for a century now, and it's time for us to get that message back that free markets and liberty is the way forward. It is the best way for humans to govern themselves. Liberty means opportunity. It means prosperity. It means trusting people to lead their own lives. It means all these good things that America was built upon and needs to return to for our future.
All right, thank you. And Larry?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Larry Sharp. I'm a poor kid from the Bronx who built himself up to try to do something good. I fell on my face a couple of times and I picked myself back up. That's what I do. I keep going. I keep moving forward. That's what I do. With that in mind, I saw that this is the actual time for our party. I've been a libertarian for about 4 years now, and I realize that now there is such a disaffection, there's such a disenfranchisement from both parties, because whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you know that your party has failed you. That's why there's a rise of Bernie, that's why there's a rise of Trump, and that means there's a rise of libertarians. This is our year to make that happen. The reason why I'm running is I see myself as someone who's an Easterner, I see myself as someone who's a veteran. I see myself as someone who's an open humanist. And I'm the kind of person who can then take this and grab our message and bring it to other markets so we can grow our party and have impact this year. I want impact this year.
All right, thank you all. Now we'll go ahead to Michael for the first question.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. So the first question is for everyone, and we're going to go ahead and start with Alicia. How, when, and why did you become a libertarian?
I've been asked this question a lot lately. I've always been a libertarian. I know that my father's a libertarian, and so I was raised with some of those ideas. But I have to tell you, I was thinking about this earlier, and I realized that when I was a really little kid, my favorite movie was Lady and the Tramp, and that's because I identified with the tramp. The tramp was so cool. He was independent. Nobody owned him. He was always running away from the authorities. That, as a little kid, you knew that the dog catcher was wrong and that the tramp was awesome. So I think I've always been a libertarian, but in the past 7 years, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a small business owner. Everything I've ever gotten in my life, I've earned myself, including my college education. Everything I've ever bought, every employee I've ever paid has come from money I've earned. And so much of it gets taken from me in taxes and regulations and just ridiculous burdens. And so that has only solidified my libertarianism.
Thank you very much. Larry, we're going to you next.
Sure. Actually, I have a long journey to the libertarian world. I grew up in a family in New York City, which of course is heavily Democratic, to where I was taught that if you're a Democrat, you're good. If you're a Republican, you're bad. It's that simple. Easy politics as a kid. But as I got older, I realized that wasn't the answer. I joined the military, the Marine Corps, as a youngster, and it's a very conservative department, a very conservative military service, and I found that I became a bit more conservative. After that, after I became a bit more conservative, I kind of found no home for me. I couldn't find a place which made sense to me. I found that the government was getting bigger, meaning the military-industrial complex was growing. My friends were being imprisoned in the prison-industrial complex, and I couldn't understand what to do. I thought maybe I thought Nader was the answer, but he wasn't. I thought maybe Obama, he's different, he could be the answer. He wasn't. And then I heard Gary Johnson speak, and that pulled me into the party, and once I met libertarians, I knew I was one of them. I've been a member about 4 years, and now I'm a member of my local community, my state, and the national.
Thank you very much. Will Coley.
Well, I grew up in an area that is known for the aggression of the state. The most recent time that government came into my region, into my neighborhoods even, and stole land, 300,000 acres of farmland from local farmers, was in 1979, just a couple of years before I was born. So this is an area where love and trust of the government is not seen as a virtue. Our state song here talks about killing tax collectors in the mountains who are there to tax us for the whiskey that we brew up in these hills. So being libertarian is a generational thing for me. My parents weren't libertarian by name, but they were libertarian by ideas, and so was the rest of my family. Now, the way I actually got introduced to the Libertarian Party and libertarianism as an ideology, funny enough, was by the Arabic teacher at the mosque that I first accepted Islam in. He gave me a book on Ron Paul, and at the same time I was studying economic legal theories in the Islamic legal tradition, and I noticed correlations between the two and decided to dig and see how far that rabbit hole went down. And the more I studied and the more I reflected on my own personal feelings, the closer I became to what would be classified as a libertarian radical. I met Alexander Schnitker in 2010, started working on his campaign while I was hosting the first Tea Party radio show in the country, and have been a dedicated libertarian activist ever since.
Awesome, thank you. Will, go ahead and introduce Judd.
A second, sorry. All right, so we have Judd Weiss, just came in a little bit late. We had some issues with the link. Send that out to people. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Judd Weiss. Judd, can you hear me?
Looks like his microphone is muted.
Yeah, I tried unmuting it, but it's on his end, it looks like. All right, so you want to go ahead? We'll go to the next question.
With the next question, go for it.
All right, guys. What made
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hello?
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, strange. You was on mute. Anyway, listen, guys, I'm traveling right now. I'm on the road, and I'm going to event in San Francisco. But I didn't catch the question. What is the question? I just got in the call a little late.
Well, just go ahead and first introduce yourself. Just give us a little background on yourself and whatnot.
Sure. I'm a commercial real estate broker. My background is in sales and high pressure sales negotiation, selling very large, high ticket items and high pressure situations. People know me throughout the Liberty scene as I'm pretty good with the camera, and now I've got well over 25,000 Facebook profile photos out there that are actually mine. And just because I'm a one obsessive guy with a camera, I've hijacked the branding and marketing of the Liberty movement. Just trying to make this whole entire movement look better and a lot more exciting. So that's what I try to do in sales, is get people excited about it. I've been in this scene since the mid-90s. Back in the day, I would go to these Denny's libertarian meetup groups, and just mostly a bunch of old people. I would go there with my friend, and we were the only high school kids there. And I was like 16 at the time. I signed a non-aggression pledge back then when I was 16 for the State Party of California. I've been in the scene a very long time. I'm very well versed in this stuff, and I feel like I want to see it finally rise. And I think we have an opportunity to do that right now, and so that's why I want people to be more excited about who we are, that we are doing something beautiful, and I want to portray that really well to the world, get people excited about it. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, and can you tell us how, when, and why you became a libertarian?
Yeah, somebody gave me a copy of Anthem when I was 14, and it just kept going from there. I was always very rebellious. My father is a strict authoritarian, so I wasn't born in a libertarian type of household at all. He's very strict disciplinarian. He's the type of guy who thinks cigarettes should be illegal, tattoos should be illegal, they shouldn't be allowed to swear in movies, that kind of thing. And so, and he was very much a strict disciplinarian with me as well. So I always had a bit of an anti-authoritarian streak because I was very rebellious with him. And then when other people are telling me what to do, it's like, try asking my father how that worked out. It didn't work out too well for him, so it didn't work out well for anybody else either. I've always had that kind of streak. So I've always kind of distrusted authority and thought it was nonsense. And Ayn Rand was the first thing that spoke to me. And I've gotten so broad since then, but my introduction was Anthem, and then I just absorbed everything I could get from Ayn Rand, and then I started absorbing everything I could find from Nathaniel Branden. In fact, Nathaniel Branden has been a bigger influence on me for sure, by far, by leaps and bounds than Ayn Rand has.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to go ahead to the next question. What made you want to seek the Libertarian Party nomination for president? This question's for everybody, and I'm going to start with Larry.
Sure, great question. The reason why I actually decided to do it is once I saw that it was probably going to be Trump and Hillary, that's when I realized it's time. It's time to make impact. I knew that we did relatively well in 2012, but I knew we could really do well this time if we could find someone who could bring the message. That's what I think I do. I bring the message. I bring it to others, people who wouldn't normally think that they're libertarian, but then they hear what I say, and all of a sudden they start coming towards us. I think this year, more than ever, we have a chance of actually winning, and if we don't win, there's something else we have. The opportunity to have real impact to where, even if we don't win the election, if we win one state, a big enough chunk, that affects the entire country. And now every state will see the Libertarian Party as a real third party. If we have a real third party, several things happen. Number one, all of a sudden negative campaigning begins to go away. Negative campaigning isn't as strong because now if I have 3 people, if one person says the other guy's bad, there's someone else to take that vote. But on top of that, now a coalition is possible. Democrats and Republicans, they can't work together because they destroy each other. But when we come in, we make a coalition. We can get stuff done. And I saw that. I thought I'm the guy to do it. That's why I'm in.
All right, thank you. And Judd? Judd, can you hear me? All right, we'll go ahead and go to Will. Same question.
Well, I want to change the conversation. I want to use this opportunity as a chance to bring a new voice to the table. Some of the most controversial and biggest topics of the year in this election cycle are issues that I have personal engagement with, both with foreign engagement with Muslim countries that are known for breeding the extremism most Americans are afraid of today, as well as personal engagement with our broken immigration system. The ability to bring a human voice to these discussions, someone who's lived through and dealt personally with a lot of these issues. We've worked to export libertarian ideas all over the world, and we want to bring that changed conversation to the national discussion. If you can give lectures on Sharia law to hostile Tea Party groups and convince people in Saudi Arabia to stand up against their government and support libertarianism, shouldn't be that hard if given the opportunity for a national stage to convince Americans to do the same.
All right, thank you. And Alicia?
So, quite frankly, I was a bit of a reluctant politician. I am signed up or have agreed to help with some of the ballot access legal issues that are going to happen this year, probably starting later in the summer, just like I did in 2012. And, I like being the lawyer, and I like using my talents in that way. But I was approached by some women in the party who felt like women in the Libertarian Party did not have enough of a voice, and that I was a person to stand up and provide some of that voice. So I thought about it. Obviously, it's important, I think, that we have women taking leadership positions, not just in the Libertarian Party, but in the country. I also feel very strongly about libertarianism. My day job is as an attorney for small businesses. I intentionally help small businesses as opposed to larger ones. And the reason for that is that entrepreneurs and small businesses are our neighbors, they're our friends, and they're the engine of our economy. And every day I get some story or I'm dealing with some problem where the small business is being attacked. The owner is about to go out of business because of some audit or tax or regulation. Their ability to innovate is stifled. And I feel like this is an opportunity for me to get up and talk about those issues, as well as some other issues about libertarianism. So when I was called upon to do it, ultimately I decided that I had a duty to stand up and use this platform to the best of my ability.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Can we get Judd on the line? Judd, are you there? Okay, this question is for everyone. Who is your ideal choice as a presidential running mate, and how would you compliment them as their vice president? And we're going to start with Alicia.
I would be willing to work with anybody that the delegation chooses. So, I mean, we're in the Libertarian Party. This is a representative position, and I trust the delegates to pick who they think best represents the party. I am mature enough to work with anybody that might be, and I feel like I have good relationships with everybody. I don't have any reason to believe why I couldn't work with any of them. My value proposition for all of these candidates is roughly the same. I think I balance them with some of the experiences I bring, both being actively representing small businesses right now in the current climate, being a woman, having a little bit of youth that I bring to the position, as well as my legal experience. I also have military experience. I was in the Navy, and I also have immigration experience. I used to work for the immigration court, and my husband is an immigrant. So I've had a lot of broad life experiences. I definitely come from I'm a bootstrapper. I come from not having a silver spoon in my mouth, and I feel like those experiences allow me to apply empathy and common sense to libertarian message and round out some of the messaging of our main candidates.
Awesome. Thank you, Alicia. Larry, we're going to go to you next.
Sure, there's a couple of good things here. The first thing is I'm an Easterner, and I'm also from a city. The other candidates, if it's either McAfee, or if it's Peterson, or if it's Johnson, those are probably the top three. If it's one of those three, I can compliment all three of them. I'm happy to compliment Johnson again. I'm an Easterner. I'm a veteran, same as Alicia is. But not just that. Since I'm an entrepreneur, I can literally stop what I'm doing, shut my business down, and go and actively campaign. Wherever they are, I'm someplace else. On top of that, I spend my life right now as an executive coach, as a management trainer and consultant. I can help the campaign to message, but not just that, to make the people better speakers. I can balance out Gary Johnson easily that way. I can balance out Peterson in that same idea. Him and I together, we're like a Clinton Gore, right? The two youngsters, right? Same idea. I can balance him out also in that regard. Again, I'm an Easterner versus a Westerner. I can also balance out McAfee. McAfee is someone who is seen often sometimes as someone who can be kind of out there. I can bring him back. I've handled a lot of people like that. I deal with people like that, the A-type personalities, every day. It's what I do. I help the campaign. I help raise money. I help mollify and handle the candidates and handle them as they move through. And I can campaign on my own and happily raise money and happily bring the message.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me right now?
Yes, Judd, we're going to you next, so you're good to go.
Perfect timing, Judd.
All right, good. So the question was,
who is your ideal choice as a presidential running mate?
And who's my choice? They're both actually the same together. My choice would definitely be McAfee, and I'm only really consider myself as a viable option for McAfee because I like to push boundaries, and I'm kind of tired of how we've been doing things for all along. I feel like the libertarian movement is like other intellectual movements. It's mainly a bunch of engineering and engineers dominating the sales department and marketing specifically to other engineers. And I feel like we are missing an opportunity to be able to connect with people who are not us. And I desperately want us to grow beyond us. And I don't feel like I can push the boundaries with anybody else quite like I can do with McAfee. He's given me a lot of leeway to be off message and to be myself, and I think that that's absolutely critical. I couldn't imagine being able to put Gary Johnson's name or Austin Peterson's name on some of the recent videos and messaging that I've been putting out. So I feel like McAfee is absolutely the most important person. And why would I be in this is because I have a voice. I felt like I've seen a lot of people. I have a sales background. I train people in sales. And I see people attacking customers, and they don't even realize it. Their whole idea of outreach is smashing truth into people's face and high-fiving their friends on who smashed the truth in the hardest. And it's like, it reminds me of when I was a young rookie. I cringe when I think about myself, and I cringe back then, and I cringe at how I see other people messaging. And I feel like I have a unique voice and an ability to connect with people who are not us and to help guide them by the hand into this, because engineering and sales are very different skill sets. They're not overlapping. An engineer shouldn't be able to sleep at night if the numbers don't add up. But that high-level nitpicky detail has very little to do with introducing people to these ideas and guiding them in. And I feel like I'm able to do that, and this is an opportunity for me to do so. And so far, I've been showing what we could do outside the bounds of political messaging with these recent videos that we've been putting out. And I'm throwing down templates of completely different experiences outside the bounds of political messaging for other people to see how you can message and ignore the way things have been done so that we can go and move beyond that and actually get somewhere. We are engineering without sales, and I want us to, and we're getting no sales because of it. We need to add sales to the engineering. So please, God, let us sell this beautiful engineering that we've got. That's why I'm in this.
Thank you, Judd. Will, you're up next.
Well, my personal pick for who I would vote for as a delegate would be Darryl Perry. In my opinion, he's the most libertarian of the candidates that are available, being a radical myself. As far as who I would think I could balance out the best and give the best option for the party and for the voters, I would personally say most likely be Johnson or Feldman. Johnson, I offer the ability, and Feldman both, I offer the ability to kind of prevent the opportunity for a party split like we see now, where we feel the radicals among the party feel that they're being marginalized and pushed out and silenced. And having a member from the radical caucus who is balancing out one of the more moderate, more pragmatist candidates like Gary Johnson or Peterson or a Feldman would offer the opportunity for all of our base to feel like they're being represented and they're being heard. What I bring is, for foreign policy experience. I've worked with political campaigns in foreign countries. I've worked on presidential campaigns in foreign countries. I have personal experience dealing with both the faith and the cultures of the countries that we're actively occupying and bombing at this time. And I also have an ability that I have didn't realize I had, that I found out the other day. I can articulate libertarian messages to libertarian audiences without being accused of being a racist. I can say, you know what, I believe in the freedom not to associate because I don't want to do business with a bigot any more than they want to do business with me. And as a member of one of those groups that are currently being marginalized in our country in that way, it changes the way that it sounds to a rural audience. And that's where most of my media attention has come from, is from former Bernie Sanders supporters who see that their guy isn't going to win, but the fact that the Libertarian Party has shown to be the party of tolerance and progress with the slate of candidates that we have this year for vice president, it's now gotten their attention. They want a party that's not going to tell people from certain groups and certain races that they can't run, and that party is the Libertarian Party.
Thank you, Will. All right, so we're going to keep all the rest of the next answers to strictly 60 seconds. And Mr. Hammer, if you want to continue.
All right, next question is for everybody. What do you think is the role of the vice presidential nominee on a campaign and the vice president in office? We're going to go back to Will to start out.
Well, on the campaign trail, the job of the vice president is the water carrier. They have to be the one that has the messaging and speaking experience, the ability to reach people and advocate the agenda and the message of the presidential candidate himself, to be the biggest cheerleader, the greatest orator, the one who sells the message of the president to the people that he's not able to reach himself. Now, while in office, another place for the vice president is to advocate and push the ideas of the president to members of the Senate as his spot of the president of the Senate. I also think, you know, a lot of what we see now is that vice presidential candidates end up going and doing the foreign work, the foreign ambassadorship work that the president doesn't want to do. So while Gary can go deal with the Ukraine and Europe and Russia, I can go suck sand in the Middle East in the desert, so he doesn't have to get a sunburn.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Alicia?
So on the campaign trail, of course, the vice presidential nominee serves as a surrogate for the presidential nominee, an opportunity to outreach and present the message to different audiences and to different groups. I mean, the presidential nominee can only be so many places at once. I think another really important job of the VP nominee is to stump for libertarian candidates in local races. You know, the whole point of having figurehead nominees is to bring up and lift up the whole party and to outreach and recruit into the party, and I think that that's an important job for the VP candidate who isn't necessarily going to get all the media attention that the presidential candidate will get, but can be out there beating the trail every day. As far as the vice president's job, some of that is helping the president mediate with the Congress to push through libertarian platforms and laws.
1 minute.
So one of the things that I do well is, as a lawyer, I have a lot of experience mediating in difficult situations and getting people to find common ground. And so I think that will be a strength of mine to use the office of the vice president to try and pursue libertarian-leaning laws through the Congress.
Okay, thank you. And Larry?
Sure, I think the actual idea is the same. It is you are the right hand of the leader, right? They need something, you help them to make that happen. You support them when others won't support them. You are in places where he or she cannot be. You're out there to put the message, but you're also out there to get other people to come on board too. You're a second president in that regard when it comes to the campaign trail. You're another arm, another leg, another mouth. When it comes to actually winning, you serve the president. It's like a senior post, the most senior post. You're the one who would assist the president in, as Will said, going overseas. You assist the president in moving his or her agenda. So no matter what, you support the president. You're the right hand of the president, doing your best to build the party and to support the president.
All right, thank you. And we're going to go to Judd now. Judd, can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. So the role of the vice president is we are a team, and I'm here to be supportive. But we're team players, and I would be boosting the signal and the message and generating support. What the president needs done, I'm here to help make that happen. And as far as campaigning goes, I am here. What I've been doing so far with, I've definitely aligned myself towards McAfee. And I've created these campaign videos that have generated a ton of excitement. I helped out. I mean, I brought in a new slogan, a new logo, a new direction, new imaging. I've been a very helpful asset to McAfee. McAfee is just like the rock star, and I'm building a lot of imaging around him. So I'm being a very supportive team member because we are a package in a lot of ways. And what we'd be doing in the office is very similar. I'm a team member. I'm going to do whatever I can to help out the president achieve the goals that we have together.
All right, thank you. Michael, go ahead.
Yes. So this question is also for everyone. What would be your strategy to help the Libertarian Party presidential candidate and campaign reach more voters? And we're going to start with Alicia.
Well, my strategy would be to do lots of traditional campaigning, and you just have to get out on the road and meet people, talk to people. All politics is local. I know a lot of people have heard that before. But you have to actually build relationships with people to get them to understand and appreciate the libertarian message. One of the things that I'm working on is refining the libertarian message to a general audience, because I think that there's a lot of prejudices about libertarianism, if people even know what it is at all. And one of those prejudices is that libertarians are racist, which is ironic given the amount of diversity that we have in our candidates. Another one of those messages is that libertarians don't care about poor people because we want to get rid of the welfare state. And I want to talk about how libertarian policies would actually lift, it's a rising tide. It would lift all the votes in the country. And so my strategy would be just get out there, one person at a time, tell them about libertarianism, and just keep recruiting to the party and recruiting to the candidate.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And Larry, go ahead.
Sure. Great question. The first thing we have to do is adjust the messaging. Alicia's right in her idea that a lot of people don't understand what being a libertarian is. So we have to adjust the message. We have to not say things like defending freedom or defending liberty, because most Americans don't think their freedom or liberty is under attack. We have to say things like providing opportunity, providing choice, things like that Americans want to hear, growing the pie. These are the right ways of saying it. But as personally, I would not just say that. I would also use social media, use video, use everything that the other people here are talking about to not hit one at a time, but to hit massive, as much as I could possibly hit. On top of that, I happen to be lucky. I'm in a city that has about 16 to 20 million people in the metro area. Easy for me to get around and hit a lot of different people. On top of that, as I said, I'm a veteran. I would use that. I would go to veterans groups. Right now, I train veterans and how to get them from the veteran status into the civilian world. I'd use that as a way to get in. And on top of that, I'm a humanist. I'm part of the American Humanist Association. I would spend time touching that group, which is a group we don't touch at all. That's a very heavily democratic group we could bring in. They like us. They want to talk to us. They'd be happy to bring us in. So I'd find every group, affinity group, that I connect with and go out of my way to bring them in, while massively blanketing a more general message that people could hear. And once they meet us, here's what happens all the time. Once they meet us, they love us. I know that because I was one of them. And when I met libertarians, I loved you guys, and I became one of them.
Thank you. Judd, you're up next.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, good. I'm traveling. So the question was, what is the strategy?
Yeah, what would be your strategy to help the Libertarian Party presidential campaign reach more voters?
All right, get me. Talk about using social media and video for good effect, because I've done it. I'm just one guy with a camera, and I decided to make the image look better. I've decided that, instead of documenting this, why not glorify it? Why not present it in a beautiful way? Because we're doing something beautiful. We're trying to remove force which is an ugly thing. We're trying to remove force from human interaction as much as possible. We're doing something beautiful for the world, and we should treat it that way. And so I've tried to create a story of legends and encourage, with these photos, and encourage people to want to be a part of this story of these legends that are laying down the foundation for the world of human liberty in our future. So that's how I'm kind of treating it. I'm trying to treat it like it's not something of a group of people that you don't want to be a part of, that you want to avoid, but it's how do I get into that? How do I get a part of that? And the messaging I'm done with these videos are outside the bounds, but they're exciting. And we're going to be doing a lot more controversial things outside the box, things that are absolutely not okay, but totally okay by libertarian standards. So right now what people need to understand is that outrage is not a problem. Outrage is not a problem. It's okay if people are turned off. That's not a problem. Because Bernie Sanders had no problem with outrage, and neither did Trump. If Bernie was nothing recently, and Hillary's been a big deal, and all of a sudden he came out of nowhere and created this big movement. If he played it safe, he would still be nothing. And if Trump played it safe, he would still be nothing. He would not be our presumptive nominee. It's okay to create outrage. We're going to create outrage and pour gasoline on all those fires.
Thank you, John.
Something really beautiful for the media to enjoy. Yes.
Thank you. Will, you're up.
Beautiful fire.
Well, I guess the first and easiest thing that I would do is exist. I'm a white, redneck, Muslim libertarian who possibly could be nominated for vice president. That in itself is a reason to stick the camera in someone's face. We got media coverage as far away as Cairo, Egypt, when my candidacy was announced. And we have been particularly appealing so far to left-of-center media outlets that don't particularly cover libertarianism. Now with a Muslim vice presidential candidate, we have the ability to steal the favorite Pavlov's bell from the duopoly. The one topic that is used to incite fear, the base on the right, they have two choices. You can ring that bell, and every time you do, the libertarian candidate will have a camera in his face because the mainstream media will want to know, well, what do you think about candidate A or candidate B maligning your running mate and the community of your running mate? Every time the Republicans say the word Islam, terrorism, immigration, Middle East, anytime those words come out of the mouth of any Republican, there'll be a camera in the face of the Libertarian Party nominee. And that is our media attention right there. That is our constant, all the time, no need to go out and purchase or use campaign funds to try to let people know that we exist. We have enough controversy built into the ticket that there will be no way on earth, no one in this country doesn't know we exist.
Time. Thank you. Go ahead, Will.
All right.
Do we get rebuttals here? Do we get any rebuttals here?
Sure, go for it.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to mention the point. I love what Judd said about outrage. But I do want to make one minor shift and just make sure it's clear. While we absolutely are okay with outrage, we don't want to inspire fear. We want to make sure we walk that line to where we can inspire outrage, but we cannot go to the level of fear. Because if the American people are afraid, they will always fall towards the duopoly. That's where they'll go if they're afraid.
Judd, would you like to respond?
Hey, can I say something about that?
Yeah.
This is Judd. Yes, so there's no such thing as the American people. It's a division of so many different factions and different mentalities. Some people will be afraid, and that's absolutely okay, because this is something that they're not comfortable with. But if we play it safe, then we're not going to be anything interesting. We cannot dilute ourselves. We're going to be really unexciting. So what I'm saying is that that we have to do something that catches attention. Some people will be afraid. There's no such thing as an American people. But yes, we're going to be bold, and we're not going to pull any punches. That's what I think.
Thank you. Go ahead, Will.
All right. Are these questions for everybody? Are you willing to do the traveling and put in the work that a national campaign requires? We're going to go ahead and start with Larry.
Yes, as I mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur. I've set my business up that if I want to, I can walk away from it for several months. So I'll literally just walk away. For 5 or 6 months, I'll stop working, and I will spend my time traveling to whatever state I have to go to. If hopefully it's in my area so I can stay close to my family, that'd be nice. But if that's not, I'm okay with that too. The odds are I'm going to play better in the East than whoever our candidate is, so the odds are I'll spend more time in the East. But I'm okay going wherever. I'm okay doing the time in D.C., doing the time in New York, heading up to the Northeast where we're pretty good, maybe even trying to spend 3-4 months up in Vermont, New Hampshire, and win a state, take some electoral votes. I'm totally okay with that. Yes, 100%. I know it's going to cost money. I know it's going to cost time. I am totally okay with both.
All right, thank you. And Judd?
Yes, you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Yes, absolutely. I have time to do the campaigning. I intend to. I haven't had a paycheck since I was 17, scooping ice cream at Cold Stone's ice cream. I have been an independent. It's just been hustle ever since then. And I was a self-made millionaire at the age of 24. I bought a house in Bel Air. I've done pretty well for myself. I've been on a roller coaster ride of financial positions, but I'm more than capable of living on my own time, and I have enough saved up right now where I'm actually able to do this campaigning. It's been a financial hit just starting this out so far and focusing on this, but it's an opportunity I think is absolutely worth it. So I will absolutely give the time, and I'll go balls to the wall because people know that's what I do.
All right, thank you. And Will?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so far this campaign season, I have been doing that traveling. We've been to a number of states and a number of conventions. And whenever we go to a state for a state convention, I always try to set up some type of a speaking engagement locally in that town outside of the convention. I've spoke in Cincinnati, we spoke in Raleigh, spoke in New York, spoke in Charlotte while we were in North Carolina. And fortunately didn't get to speak in Michigan because my phone ended up at the bottom of the hot tub and I lost the contact information for that event. But that's what we've been doing already. We've been going from state to state and city to city to meet with delegates, to speak with convention and party leaders, and to go out and try to spread this message outside of the park conventions while we're in these different cities. So we're already doing that. So we, of course, would be more than happy to do that. As far as the money and the costs are concerned, we have, I have right now a group of activists and donors who are basically waiting for May 31st to find out if I win the nomination so that they can start pouring their money and efforts into the Libertarian campaign. These are the same activists and organizers who delivered the I-4 corridor to the Bush campaign in 2000 and are now looking to throw their efforts behind the Libertarians should the right ticket be offered.
Okay,
So
thank you. And Alicia?
By the way, Cooley, I heard your story in New York. I loved it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Alicia.
And obviously everybody here is going to say yes, but I will say that there's no substitute for hard work in campaigning. You have to hit the trail. You have to be out there meeting people. Relationships are built face-to-face. And we can spend our time chasing viral videos, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have good social media game or that we shouldn't have good advertising, but there's just no substitute for getting out there and recruiting people to the party. So I'm absolutely prepared to do that. And, you know, like everybody here, I'm an entrepreneur. I've set up my business to run so that I can do it from anywhere off my laptop. I have 6 employees, so, you know, they can keep things going while I'm out. The only thing that I require is that I bring my dog with me at least some of the time.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So this question,
Nice.
So this question is for Judd Weiss and Will Coley. Will you seek the VP nomination if your running mate is not chosen as the presidential nominee? And this goes to Judd first.
Yes. All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Go for it.
All right, good. Yeah, I don't intend to because I just don't see myself as a viable candidate to anybody else. You know, honestly, I would consider. I mean, if Perry was the nominee, perhaps. I kind of like that the Radical Caucus is ballsy. I just feel like they're not giving enough focus on their messaging and outreach relating to people. But I like that they don't give a damn and they're just willing to say whatever they believe. And that I have a lot of connection and affinity with. So if it happened to be that Darryl Perry was the nominee, I would actually consider that because then I could just do what I need to do and speak how I speak freely, and that I feel comfortable with. I feel like if I was the nominee for Johnson or for Peterson, the VP candidate running me with them, I just feel like I would be too constrained in it's not about being under their shadow. It's just that I can't really be myself. They have their vision, and we would clash too much. McAfee's given me the flexibility to be bold as much as I wanted to be, and I think that that's essential. We have no reason to play it safe right now because we have nothing to lose, and we might as well go and catch a lot of attention and be bold to do so. So yes, I don't think I would be a viable candidate for Peterson or Johnson, to be honest with you.
Awesome, thank you. And Will, we'll go to you.
Absolutely, I would definitely. As a matter of fact, a lot of the supporters that I have come from camps outside of the Perry camp who would like to see me paired up with their particular candidate. The announcement of the running mate status was actually purposeful. We did that as a response to stories that are coming out among the Democrats. We were trying to assert the Libertarian Party as something different and a better option for a large portion of the voting populace out there by making the announcement as a Libertarian candidate has asked a member of the Muslim community to join his team. Whereas when you have people from my community who have attempted to run for office in Virginia or in Nevada and other places, they've been told by people like Harry Reid, you know, you have a beard, your wife wears a scarf, you're not allowed to run, we don't want you running in our party, you might make us look bad. So we announced it as a running mate situation to kind of assert to the public that the Libertarian Party is different. We're not like that. If you have the principles, if you have the message, if you practice these ideas in your daily life, what you look like, who you sleep with, what God you pray to, or whether or not you decide to, not at all, none of that matters. What matters is what principles do you have and what principles do you practice in your daily life. So the idea of me as Daryl's running mate was really kind of a chance for us to illustrate that point to the public. But I'm absolutely down with being with any of the candidates. Daryl is even actually trying to encourage other candidates to take me as their nominee should he lose.
Thank you very much.
Can I rebut that?
Go for it.
Judge.
Sure.
You have 30 seconds.
Actually, to be honest with you, if it was Will Coley as a actual presidential candidate, I would choose him over anybody else because this guy is so cool. I like how he speaks so relatably, and I wish I could pick him and be a VP running mate to him, to be honest with you. And it would be really cool if we had a Muslim and an ethnic Jew on a ticket together. I think that would be pretty badass, to be honest with you. So honestly, I would like to change my answer. If I could, I would pick Will Coley as to be a running mate for.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Well, I got to rebut that too. I got to say the thing that I love the most about this. I saw both Perry and Cooley speak in New York, and the thing that's amazing is that when you hear them speak, even though a lot of New Yorkers think, "Really, he said that? Really, he said that?" We were still all nodding our head. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, oh my God, yeah, he's right. We kept saying, yeah, he's right, and then straw poll we picked Johnson. But anyway, we still kept nodding our heads, and this is the good thing about our party. And guys like Cooley and guys like Perry, we don't run away from them. You know, I lean into those guys. That's our North Star. That's who we're leaning into. We want to follow these guys. They're the guys we need to be looking towards and moving towards them always.
Thank you very much. This question is for Alicia and Larry. How do you make the case to the delegation to choose you if the presidential nominee endorses somebody else? And we're going to start with Alicia.
That's a good question. So, you know, again, the delegation gets to pick. I have to say, it's one of the things that I like about the Libertarian Party is that we don't have a candidate put upon us by fiat, that we can choose to balance our ticket in any way we want to. And so the case I make to the delegates is, you know, I understand that the candidate may have a particular person. It's your choice to decide, look at my strengths, look at my qualities, and decide whether or not that is something that you want representing you and libertarianism out on the trail. Because ultimately, we are a representative type government. We are a republic with representatives. And so, you know, just because I don't represent maybe one of the candidates as much as somebody else who he chose doesn't mean I don't represent the delegation or libertarians or the American people writ large.
Thank you very much. Larry, go for it.
Well, two parts. One, I might not, to be forward. If the right candidate, if the right VP candidate stepped up, who I thought would be more powerful than me, who would be stronger, more effective than me, I actually wouldn't. I would actually be prepared to step down. I want us to win. I want impact. If someone pops up that I think is bigger, badder, stronger than me, I will walk away. It's just not about me. This is about impact. I said that. That's what I meant. That's what I want to happen. If someone else could do it, I would walk away. Happily, whatever money I put into this, I sacrifice, we move on. But if that's not the case, I make the case I just said. Who better to motivate? Who better to have impact? Who better to attack the military-industrial complex, to attack the prison-industrial complex? Who better to bring these people aboard? If I can bring them aboard, then I want to bring them aboard. And that's what I'll tell the delegates, and I hope they'll say yes. If they say yes, that's how I do it.
All right, thank you. And this next question's for everybody. What is your realistic goal for yourself and the Libertarian Party during this election cycle? We'll start with Will.
My realistic goal in the election cycle is to win. That's my realistic goal, to win the nomination. Now, from there forward, no less than 15% of the vote, bar none, especially if Bernie Sanders loses and we're stuck with Trump and Hillary after their respective conventions. No less than 15% of the vote, with the proper ticket and the proper strategy, possibly even a victory, though I don't hold my breath for that. But I do not see us getting less than 5 to 15% of the vote this year with the proper strategy and the proper ticket.
All right, thank you. Alicia?
So my goal isn't for myself. My goal is for the Libertarian Party. It's not even for the ticket, honestly. It's for the Libertarian Party. And that goal is to get the message out as widely as possible and grow the party as much as possible. You know, of course, I would like to see us win. If we can win, that would be amazing. I'd be all on board for that. If we can't win, I at least want to see us have a growth over the past election cycles. It would, of course, be great for us to get to that 5%. It would be great for us to have some coattails to bring in some local candidates, and you know, just growing the party. I would consider any major impact and growth this election cycle to be a win.
All right, thank you. And Larry?
Sure. Personally, I want to make sure I win, obviously, but I want to make sure we have a good, powerful VP candidate that can differentiate the party and, of course, get the message out. But what is a realistic win? Well, if we are out there and both or one of the mainstream candidates implode, we have an actual chance of taking the presidency. That could happen. All we need is a bunch of money and one implosion, and we could actually win. So, but let's say we don't, and the odds are we won't. Here's what I actually want. I don't want a percentage. I don't want growth. I don't want any of that. I want at least 3 electoral votes. I want us to be on a CNN, MSNBC, Fox News map with a purple state that says Libertarians took that state. If that happens, that means we had real impact. We affected the actual outcome. If we affect the outcome, every single state grows. Every single state will have more governors, more local people, more mayors. That will help the party throughout all 50 states if we just win one. I want an electoral vote. That's realistic. We can do it. That's what I want.
All right, thank you. And Judd?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I absolutely do not have a specific goal because that would just limit me. If I had a goal for how many photos I would have blink at the libertarian scene or the wider liberty scene, it wouldn't have been 1/10 of the results that actually happened, just because I'm OCD and I just push as far as I physically can. So what we're doing right now is a protest campaign and a publicity campaign. We're trying to move the liberty protest needle further than it's ever been. Ron Paul moved it very far in 2008 and took it even further in 2012. And he's a quirky old guy leading with End the Fed, which didn't have a lot of potential. And hats off to him, absolutely amazing. I think McAfee and I have a potential to go a lot further than that. And we need a rock star like McAfee, catch a lot of attention, just introduce people to these ideas and get them into the libertarian liberty scene. I feel like my goal is to generate a tremendous amount of excitement like we haven't seen in the liberty movement. I think I have some pretty amazing results in that field already. And then if we can generate a tremendous amount of excitement for the Libertarian Party, then we can just start watching people like popcorn start going off. People starting to switch to the Libertarian Party that are currently in office. Libertarians starting to get elected to local offices. We need a big umbrella of excitement around the Libertarian Party. I think I can help do that. So our goal is to push as far as we physically can how much hustle we can put into it, and how much support we can get as much as possible and get this liberty protest, move this further possible. And if we can we have a movable target. First, we want to get 5%. If we can get 5%, we're going to move towards 15% to get those debates. If we can get to 15%, well, 40% of the public doesn't want Hillary or Trump. And it's a possibility we can get into the 30 percentile range where a White House is actually in play. I'm not going to promise that, but I'll tell you I'll push as far as we physically can.
Okay.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judd. So this question is for everyone. How can we reach, educate, and attract more minority and women voters to the Libertarian Party? And we're going to start with Alicia.
I think this is a great question. I've actually been asked this a couple of times. I think it's really important for us to activate and empower the people within our party who are already in those groups and have them go out there and outreach to women who are not in the Libertarian Party, from when it comes to me, to minorities who are not in the Libertarian Party. That message is not going to be as well received if it's coming from somebody who is not already in that group. And so we need to be actively recruiting people and asking them to reach into their communities. So in my particular situation, I would be obviously well positioned to outreach into women where I can talk about the libertarian message in a way that resonates with women and the issues that they're interested in and the way that we communicate, because I understand it. I understand how women business owners are. I am the chapter president of the National Association of Professional Women in St. Louis. We have things that we talk about that are different than what I talk about with the men that I work with who are business owners. And so my just being out there and being able to talk with them, I can reach in and encourage them to look at libertarian ideas and see how it can support them as business owners or as women in our community. And we need to do the same thing with minority groups. That message is not going to come as well for me to say somebody who's Hispanic, because I'm not Hispanic. So we need to empower our Hispanic members to do that.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Next up, we have Larry.
Social issues, social issues, social issues, social issues. That's what draws minorities, that's what draws women more than anything. That brings them to the table. We have to let them know that the social issues that people like Obama just evolved on, we figured out 40 years ago. The social issues that Democrats just figured out, we knew 40 years ago. We figured this out years and years ago. We were on board for marriage equality. We were on board for the women's right to choose. We were on board for all these things decades ago. And when you actually talk to people about it and say, how did it happen? What happened first? What happened? Who was in charge of this? Who was in charge of that? And they begin to say that both parties have had the presidency, both parties have had Congress, both parties have had both the presidency and Congress, and social issues moved forward at a snail's pace. That's the first step. Second piece, war on drugs. War on drugs is the second piece. You touch that, you will get minorities to go, yeah, I know. My buddies in the barrio, my guys from the ghetto, my buddies from the hood, they all went to jail. They all got arrested. They all can't get jobs. They all can't vote. All those issues, the war on drugs and social issues, we push those two, we will draw them in, because the mainstream parties are not prepared to actually do anything.
Thank you very much, Larry. Next up, we have Judd.
Can I rebut that a little bit? Or do you want me to wait till the end?
Let's go through Judd and then Will Coley, and then we'll let you go ahead and rebut.
Okay,
Judd.
cool. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. So, well, there's minorities, there's women, and there's different groups. And the truth is that there's no such thing as appealing to women, because women are so diverse. There's feminists, there's young professional women, there's elderly women, there's conservative housewife women. There's just such a diverse range, and they don't necessarily agree with each other. So it's not necessarily. It's which are we appealing to? We're individuals, and there's a lot of differences between us. But one thing I feel is somewhat universal is women like guys who look good, and so I've got a lot of cool pictures of these libertarians that I've been putting out. And right now we're getting a lot of right swipes to libertarians all of a sudden on Tinder, which hasn't been happening in the past so much. So that's one thing that I've done. I think we actually being more attractive is one way to get in women, and I think my photos have demonstrated that that's possible. We are a more exciting place. More people come, women, men, everybody wants to be a part of the cool party of exciting place. And of course there's the issues, but those issues are targeted to different groups. Conservative women have different issues than feminists and even young professionals. They're all different. As far as minorities go, well, there are things that are affecting minorities in big ways. The drug war is disproportionately affecting minorities, and saying that we're going to pardon all nonviolent drug offenders, which is what we do intend to do at the very first thing we do in office, and send those people back home so they're not separated from their families, their friends, and their sources of income on our dime. That's one of the first things we can do to help out the minority community. Yes. All right. There you go.
Thank you very much, Jen. Will Coley.
Well, I'd have to say that, I somewhat agree with Alicia's sentiment, having been involved in efforts like what she's talking about myself personally. We really need to reestablish the Libertarian Party as the true party of tolerance and progress. We're the party who ran a Jewish woman for vice president in the 1970s, who ran a gay man for president in the 1980s. We stepped, as a liberal author who was writing an article about our campaign put it, to his very liberal chagrin, we stepped on political ground that the Democrats were not willing to step on for 30 to 40 years. And we need to make sure that that's known again, to get that message out there, that this isn't the party of Jim Crow advocates. This isn't the party of sell your neighbor to the corporations and reinstitute slavery. This is the party with a woman, an ethnic Jew, a black man, a Muslim, and our friend Kerry Douglas, a gay gentleman who wasn't here with us tonight. That is our platform slate for vice presidential candidates this year. So you cannot claim that that's who we are. And I think asserting that and pushing that idea in the public is the easiest way to get that done. We've got Muslims in 7 states that are getting signatures for the Libertarian Party. And so just like Alicia said, if you empower people in these groups to spread the word for us, they will do so.
Thank you very much. Alicia, you wanted to have a rebuttal? 30 seconds.
Yes. Really quickly, I do think that it's people within a group are obviously individuals, but there is a vocabulary and a way of relating with each other that people in the same group have. So, but when we talk about the issues that will best play with these groups, social issues I think are important, but the overall problem that we're having right now in America is economic. And that economic problem impacts jobs, it impacts quality of life, it does impact crime, it impacts all these things. And ultimately, we need to be able to talk about financial issues as well. And women, I know, care about financial issues. Business owners care about financial issues. People who are poor clearly care about financial issues. And one of the ways that we can reach in is to not just talk about, like, for me as a woman, I don't want to just talk about abortion.
Yeah, if I could rebut that, I think she's right in the money. I just want to say that I think that's the way you do the initial reach, right? The initial touch is often a social issue where they at least open up and have a conversation. The problem is I think our image often when we talk about finance is most people, and again, I'm speaking only from where I live in New York and the Northeast. In that area, when you bring up libertarians and you talk about financial issues, their assumption is cut, 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 everyone's on their own. But if you bring up social issues first, that's when they'll begin to hear you. And then I think Alicia's right in the money. You then go into finance, and then they'll hear you.
Thank you.
Hey, can I rebut on this one?
Yes, sir. Go for it, John.
All right. Listen, there is no such group as women. They're so diverse, and there's nobody who speaks for women. There's nobody who necessarily speaks for minorities. They're so diverse, and it's like, there's so many different groups. So each of us can have impacts on different groups of women or different groups of minorities. And there's nobody who speaks for women, just like there's nobody who speaks for men. It doesn't exist. But what we can do is be effective in general to people and connect to some general basic human understandings and get people excited from that level. And I think I'm demonstrating that we can do that. Let's go on.
Go for it, Mr. Hammer.
All right, we're going to go ahead and go to the next questions for everybody. What issue do you hope to educate people on and bring national attention to? And I'm going to go ahead and start with Larry first.
The national attention piece. One of the most important things we have to deal with is get people to stop being afraid of the other. right? Stop thinking that there's always someone outside trying to get us. They've been giving us a perpetual war for the past 70 years, and there's always someone trying to kill us. When I was in the Marine Corps, it was Ivan. Now it's Haji. Before that, it was Charlie. Before that, it was the Krauts. It's always some one-word bad enemy that's out there trying to kill us. And as long as we keep thinking that, we don't look inward. We don't try to fix anything. We care only about, can the government make us safe? And what people don't understand is the president's job, the federal government's job, is not to protect every life. It's to protect the Constitution. Alicia knows this. She took the same oath that I took. She took the same oath that the president took. The oath we took was not to protect every American. The oath we took was to protect the Constitution. That's the oath we took. And if we get that idea out, that the federal government's job is not to make sure everybody's 100% safe and no one gets hurt. The federal government's job is to facilitate, not to enforce. That will be the issue I want to bring up more than anything else. There aren't people trying to invade and take over our country. There are people trying to hurt us, that's true, but not invade and take over our country. Our Constitution is not under attack from outside. It's under attack from inside. That's our biggest problem.
Thank you. Judd? Judd, can you hear me?
He's still muted out.
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you repeat the question?
What issue do you hope to educate people and bring national attention to?
The big issue here is force. Force is ugly, and force always leads to bad consequences, terrible consequences. And what people need to understand is that we are trying to remove force from human interaction as much as possible. Liberty is allowing us to live our lives as we choose without being forced. It's actually not just government that can harm our liberties, it's other people. A lot of people can. We need to be able to live our lives as we choose based on our own decisions, and that's the most appropriate way for us to live amongst each other in a society of liberty. So I want to get that across, and I made that logo, Let Life Live, to really encapsulate what we're all about. It's somewhat of a play of live and let live, and ultimately that's our one commandment, is live and let live. Your life is yours as long as you don't hurt people. Those who do harm should be restricted. Those who do no harm should live free. Let life live. And I want to get that across in a big way. That's my main issue.
Okay. Thank you. And Will?
Well, there's actually two issues that I want to educate the public about, but they're both centered around the fact that I am a free market radical. I believe in radical free markets, and immigration and our foreign policy are connected to those ideas. Anything that comes between the free movement of people, ideas, or products is a regulation on the market, and that is something I disagree with. And I think that when Democrats want to talk to Republicans about immigration, they're using the wrong language. And Republicans want to talk about security to Democrats, they're using the wrong language. And I want to introduce the right language so that everybody at the table can agree. Yes, we think that the free market is great. And if you think the free market is great, then you should think that open borders and free immigration is great. You should think that extorting people at gunpoint in order to have them move into this country is a bad thing, because that has a negative effect on our economy. You would think that the use of bombs and hellfire missiles to export our economic and philosophical ideas was a bad thing, because again, it affects the market in a negative way.
Time. Thank you very much.
And Alicia?
Well, I have two issues, actually, too. And the first one is the war on drugs. I do a lot of media. I did a lot of radio even before I started running. And the thing that I've always talked about is the war on drugs. The bar is talking about it as lawyers. We have overburdened jails. It is one of the underlying causes of the Black Lives Matter issue that the other parties don't want to touch. It impacts our foreign policy. It's a human rights crisis. We have to address it. The other one is that I want to talk about small businesses dying. They create 65% of our new jobs, but for every business that starts up, 1.5 shuts down. It's a major economic crisis. and it's just getting worse. We need to address why, and I will tell you why. It is regulations and it is taxes. Every small business is being treated like it's Walmart. It's just not so, and it's strangling our economy, and that's causing massive pain across the United States.
I want to get a quick rebuttal, and I want to get my second one in too, right? Just real quick. My second one is wealth gap. Wealth gap's a big problem we're having right now, and most people don't know why that's happening. You've got Republicans saying it's because of the bad foreigners. You've got Democrats saying it's because of bad corporations. It is a technology issue. We have to get people to understand technology has displaced us. We have to change the way we educate, change what we're doing, support heavily the sharing economy, and support heavily the technology, and support heavily integrating the sin or the vice industries back into our main market so we can grow the pie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're running up on time here. We have one last question for everyone. What actions can we all take to move towards a more free and voluntary society? And we're going to start with Judd.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
Well, what we need to do to move towards a free and voluntary society is to get people aware of why that's even desirable, what that even means, and how do we simplify that, make it digestible to people, make it comfortable to people, and also make it attractive and appealing to people. And so what I've been doing is just trying to build up credibility for the Liberty scene and in the Liberty brand with imaging and this video messaging and whatnot. That's making what we're doing exciting. I'm trying to make it very simple and make it also something that's appealing but very comfortable, that this is actually very good thing. Live and let live. Let life live. It's a very simple message. And so I think the more we can catch attention, turn heads, and introduce people to those very simple ideas, the better we can do on moving the world towards more liberty.
Thank you. Will Coley, you're up next.
I was enjoying Judd's answer so much I forgot the question.
What actions can we all take to move towards a more free and voluntary society?
Well, I've always found, particularly in my personal work, that the best way to spread liberty is to provide good ideas and good examples. It works a whole lot better than hellfire missiles, that's for sure. The best thing you can do is withdraw your own consent. Be that example to others around you. Use alternative currencies. Set up an agorist business. Do what you can to withdraw your consent from the state. Starve the state. Do everything you can not to give the state any more money than you absolutely have to. Am I advocating that you try to figure out a way to get out of paying taxes? Yes, absolutely. I am advocating that you try to figure out a way to pay as little on your taxes as absolutely possible. Why? Because I want to starve the state. And that's the quickest way for us to get liberty, is to give the example to our neighbors. Live that good example. Live these principles in your personal life, and other people will want to join the fun. Other people will want to be a part of the party, a part of the movement, because they see you and how grand and happy your life is.
Thank you, Will. And Alicia.
Well, I think that it's all through local relationships. The best thing that we can do is talk to our friends, talk to our neighbors, talk to our customers and clients, and convince them, if we can, in little ways, why liberty is what's best for everybody. Over time, those little seeds turn into trees. We have to keep pushing the message, because every person that we talk to about it, who we convince, then turns around and talks to somebody else who is convinced, and eventually the movement grows. I also think it is important to vote Libertarian. It's important to vote Libertarian because the more people who vote Libertarian, the bigger the message is to our legislators who are making the laws that liberty is important, and that if they want to keep their jobs, they need to consider the Libertarian position.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Larry.
I want to bite off of both Cooley and off of Judd. They both had the right answer, I think. And the idea that Judd talked about was the idea of violence. He brought that up many times. We have to begin to understand that law is violence. It is outsourced violence. We're using a police force and a justice system, but it's still violence. If you don't do what the law says, eventually people with guns will come after you. If we understand that as a concept, that law is violence, we want to think to ourselves, is that the best way of handling a problem? Is it worthy of violence? Well, if someone's property is lost, life is lost as a victim, yes, that's appropriate. But is it appropriate for someone to drink soda, as in Bloomberg's law? Is it appropriate whether someone loves or someone does something that you think is wrong for sin? Of course it's not. But not just that, is it the right answer? Can I use a carrot versus a stick? Can I not use violence or a law? Is that possible? And the example I'll bring is when it comes to Bloomberg's law here in New York, we're trying to make everybody not be able to buy 16-ounce sodas. Instead of saying, no, you can't, instead of saying, here, if you want to do it, use it as a marketing tool. Make a benefit to it and not make it as a carrot and not a stick. And the second part on a personal level is not that law is violence, but on a personal level, are you empowering people around you? Is your goal in life to tell people what to do and dictate? Or is your goal in life every day, as Gulch said, be the example? I love that. Be the example. Are you trying to empower people, teach them, show them, help them, or are you trying to dictate and tell them what to do? Those are two things we could all be better libertarians.
Okay, guys, that was the last question. So now I want to give you a minute each to pitch your campaign and just send this off. I'm going to go ahead and start with Will.
Well, I've worked with libertarians on 3 continents in at least 12 countries. I've worked with men who've screamed their discontent in front of the Saudi palace who've never been seen again. Women who have worked for digital literacy in Afghanistan, Bitcoin. Worked with thousands of libertarians in Turkey who have attempted to push their government to take less effort to restrict their free speech. I've worked with people in all over the country. My work's been translated into 4 different languages. And my work right now is exporting the liberty movement. And I want the opportunity to take the efforts that I've put into growing liberty movements in Pakistan and in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar and South Africa and use what I've learned there to grow the liberty movement and the liberty voting base here. And if you give me the opportunity in May in Orlando to be the vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, that's exactly what I'll do. I'll take what I've learned over the course of the last 11 years of activism and working to spread these ideas in places that you can get killed for spreading these ideas and bring that knowledge and put it to work right here for the Libertarian Party in the United States.
All right, thank you very much. And Alicia?
So libertarianism is the best way for human beings to organize themselves and govern themselves. Nothing is more empowering than having the liberty to choose what you wish to do with your life, to experiment, to succeed, and to fail. The way that we have innovation, the way that we fulfill ourselves as human beings is having the liberty to do that. I want to talk about this loudly. I want to talk about this widely. I want to talk about this to the business owners and the blue-collar workers, to women, to men, to every minority group, to immigrants, to all Americans. Because the only way we are going to improve as a society is to head towards liberty, not towards government. Right now we are running towards government because of fear and because of pain, and all that's causing is more fear and more pain.
All right, thank you. And Larry?
Well, I think the most important thing, everyone said a lot of good stuff, and I agree. The issue is, how do we move that forward? Well, you want to move that forward with someone who is prepared to talk to the right people, make the right moves. I've dealt with people, to jump on Cooley's side, in Asia, in Europe. I've taught my classes on leadership in Germany, in the UK, in the Far East, all across the States, and even in Canada. So wherever people need to hear a message, I'm the guy who can give it. I'm the guy who can raise money. I'm the guy who can move a crowd. I'm the guy who will be out there to make things happen so that we can actually make the libertarian movement as strong as it can possibly be. So if you're looking for someone as a VP, you're looking for someone who can move a crowd and get people into the actual movement where they'll say yes, they'll give money, we can make impact, I'm the guy who can do that. You're looking for someone who can lead. More than once I've actually run big departments of international public companies, companies out of Denmark, companies out of Germany, companies in the United States. This is something I can do and I have done, and I hope you decide that I'm the right guy to do it.
All right, thank you, Larry. And finally, Judd. Judd, go ahead.
Still muted out, Judd.
Judd, can you hear us?
Would anyone else love to give Judd's closing minute? Just kidding.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Can you repeat the question? I'm on the road right now. A lot is going on.
It's just it's just giving your last minute, your pitch for the campaign, just to send off.
Oh yes. Well, my background is in sales, and I feel like that's what we desperately need right now. We've been a movement of engineers, high-level engineers that have been dominating the sales department, and it's a very different skill set. So I want to bring sales, which means get people excited, get people comfortable, and make this something that is relatable and simple enough for them to understand. And I think what we need to do is, instead of trying to sell each and every little policy position, is focus on the universal message of liberty and what it's about, and extract those policy positions from there. Go for the building blocks and help people reach the different policy positions from there. Not try to sell each and every one in every economic policy, but just what we're about, what our vibe is. Introduce people to the ideas, and then send them down the factory assembly line to other voices in the scene for deeper digging. So it's a division of labor model that we really haven't done before. Normally, people start off with a dissertation on liberty, or they throw human action at somebody, or expect them to read a 1,200-page novel. That's not respecting people's time. People gave me some heat for not doing a lot of policy positions on my first video, but I didn't want to do an engineering spec sheet that a lot of people can't read and understand. I wanted people to understand. I had one policy position I hammered in very hard at the end, but 3 words: let life live. And that's our message, and I want to get that across to people in a big way.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us tonight and providing substantive answers to our questions. And I want to wish y'all all good luck with your campaigns and good luck at the convention next week. Thanks, Michael, for helping me out with this, and goodbye and good luck.
Thank you, guys.